Okay, hello fellow rider. Chances are if you're watching this, you've probably already been tempted by this motorcycle and now you're looking for confirmation that it's actually a good idea. Like you, I watched a lot of these videos, a number from my fellow journalists who I actually happen to know in person, as well as speaking to them afterwards and getting the true skinny, and yeah, everyone said this bike was just absolutely amazing. Well, I've just picked this bike up from A&S in Sacramento, or Roseville, and I am going to take it on its maiden voyage on a road that I'm familiar with, Suisun Valley Road, sort of a back way into Napa. And, well, you're going to hear how I react. I have ridden the latest Multistrada on my tours every year. Every year I get to ride the latest Multistrada, and I've seen what they've been doing with them. They've been getting progressively smoother and easier to ride, but that didn't always mean they were a fun bike. And while I was able to ride the new Multistradas a bit faster than my old 2010, they weren't always as fun. There was a sort of a raw horsepower thing that the 2010 had that the later models, particularly with the variable valve timing, didn't have. But let's not take away from that. The variable valve timing made the bike better. It made the bike smoother, but somehow maybe we didn't want it better. Maybe we didn't want it smoother. When you buy a bike like a Ducati, you want a little bit of insanity, you know? It's like some of us don't want the Ferrari, we want the Lamborghini. The craziness, the insanity. You want a little bit of that in your motorcycle, right? I mean, we're all crazy. This thing has the giggle factor when you punch it, and that's why I really got it. Something to make me laugh. But more importantly, up comes the turn, which I have taken many times. I've also fucked up many times. So I'm going to take it a little bit carefully, especially with all this traffic coming out of Napa. Bumps before the entry point. Okay, well, we're in sport mode, obviously. Suspension, as expected, feels very predictable. Trail braking in. Ooh, boy, it's happy to turn tight if you want it to. Wow, kind of caught me off guard there. Ended up way too tight. Okay, now quick transitions on that 19-inch front, because that's where you gotta muscle it a little bit. It doesn't have a 17-incher in it. Ooh, trail braking and turning in really works on this thing. It really sharpens up the turn. It's funny because the brakes at highway speed seem pretty progressive, but here at backroad running, the braking feels, well, very sporty. Now, since it's got a 19-inch front, you gotta push that front end a little bit harder. There's not a delay in handling. And when you get in there with that 19-inch front, you do have a little bit more beef on the ground than you do with the 17. Oh, I forgot how nice it is to be able to drop down a gear without having to use the clutch. Okay, so I just royally made a mishmash of that group of turns, missing some apexes, and what I'm discovering is trail braking, even slightly trail braking on this thing, is very effective and will suddenly pull you in tight very quickly. So even just a slight, oh yeah, brings it in quick, which is, well, frankly what we want at trail braking, right? Plants that front, gets us turning smooth. Hello, police officer, or security vehicle of some sort. Alright. Shit. I'm already riding this road. It feels like I'm riding it at around 75% of my ability, of what I feel comfortable with. And yet, I would be feeling a tad more nervous on my older multi at these speeds. Why is that? Two things. This suspension is just a tad bit better. The frame feels really solid. The bike is just not. The suspension is working the way it should, and the frame is not flexing a lot. If it is, it's just flexing the way it's supposed to. The bike is not wallowing at all in a high-speed turn. I realized the firing order of the V4 makes it more like a twin than other V4s, but when you ride this thing, it is definitely a V4. It feels completely like a 4. It's nothing like a V-twin at all. The engine spools up really quick. Oh, that's so nice having auto shift. Geez, the front brakes work too good. I get into a turn a little bit taut, and then I press the front brakes just a little bit, and it overslows me. I've got the suspension on auto leveling, so it could be why my front end isn't diving as much, but I'm feeling okay with it. Yes, I just broke California law. I'm gonna say he was waving me by, right? Everyone saw that? Dodge the rocks. Wow, these front brakes are good. They're very, I mean, the bite on them is good, but boy, if you want a bit more, you can get a lot more out of them. I'm really surprised. That's the big surprise so far. I'm more surprised about than the engine. Obviously, the engine is completely different, but what I'm really surprised about the quality of, that feels surprisingly better, is the brakes. I wouldn't have thought the brakes would have been that much better, but wow. And the brakes and the effect on the handling. And, oh boy, performance riding without the clutch is so fucking handy. I realize a lot of sport touring bikes have that now, but I'm not used to riding this particular road. Woo! Wheelie control just kicked in. The effect that trail braking is having on the handling is amazing. It's giving you just what you want. It's giving you too much. You got to dial it back, or it lets you know you could have come into that turn a lot hotter, and you still would have been fine. Yes, I'm going 90 miles an hour on a back road in California. what we do, right? Okay, I have my tire pressures right now set for a 250-pound man at 36 on the front and 38 on the rear, which is a little bit higher than I usually have it. I'd say that's what I usually have for me and a passenger. But so far everything's feeling good. Damn it, everyone's coming out of Napa Valley. There's no place to pass. I would like to get you guys a better shot of this turn up here. But, yeah, it's not going to happen. I should note that this video is being filmed using an AGV Pista RR helmet, which I normally use as my track helmet, but it has a chin mount on it, specifically from the company called Chin Mount, that's meant to fit on this helmet, and it has a GoPro Hero 8 Black, filming at 4K at 30 frames per second. Stuck in the media mod. Oh shit, really? Did you have to be going right? I've got to get around these guys. Thank you for pulling over. Twisty bits here. Stock Scorpion, Pearly Scorpions on here. They're supposed to have a little bit of off-road cred. Using the rear brake for the first time to settle down the rear end. We're coming into a turn. Alright, got to take it easy on the bars here. Figuring out how to move from side to side. Okay. Oh, come on. Give it the proper gear. This is a bit of a bumpy road, and so far the sport suspension is soaking it up pretty good. I'm having to, since there's so much horsepower at my right hand, I'm having to work a little bit harder at controlling the flow of that throttle hand so it doesn't jerk around. Yeah, front brake, wow, so good. Okay, we'll just make this run to the old abandoned store here. Give you guys an idea. Oh, road construction? No, it's done with. Okay, I'm getting used to transitions back and forth pretty quick, at least the low-speed transitions with the 19-inch front. People know I'm very fond of the, I'm very fond of the Multistrada 950 because of its 19-inch front. When I'm in Italy, I prefer that bike over the 1260. At least I have. We'll see when the option for the V4 comes up. Bump! Barely noticeable. Bump! Nothing. So I like the handling of the 19, particularly on the tighter stuff. When you're at freeway speeds, it feels a little heavy when you're trying to range back and forth, but that's okay. You just push a little harder. There's not a delay in handling, it's just an increase in strength that is required to push the bike into position. And so taking it relatively easy. I'm not fully comfortable with this bike yet, but I think I'm already going at a clip that I would normally do, and yet I feel more comfortable doing it. Wheelbase is about the same as my past 2010 Multistrada and all the other Multistradas that I've run with. I've learned not to put too much stock in wheelbase as to how quickly handling something is. Geez, the front end just carves so nicely. The bike feels so well planted, even though this stuff is a little bit bumpy. Easy on the throttle hand. Now have some fun. Yeah, it definitely has a fun factor, and that's what I was looking for. The power is so ridiculously smooth. It is the power of a V4, and that is what's so seductive, and that's why, as well as that Multistrada was selling before, they are going to sell tons of these things. Now, my bike was one of those that had the bad valve guides on it, so I had to wait for a fresh engine to be delivered from Ducati and be installed. And so I spoke to the mechanic today. I said, hey, you know, what'd you learn about this thing? I said it was very easy to work on, very methodical, very obvious. The other thing he says, it's been built to last. And I really like that. It was just not what you would expect from a Ducati, right? Look how Brady's coming through. Alright, this little road is 121 coming out of Napa, heading towards Lake Berryessa, and we're ending here at 121, and we're about to join 128 and head towards Lake Berryessa, which a lot of our local riders go to. I try to avoid Lake Berryessa because all the police officers know that's where the sport bike guys go. So anyway, here's the old abandoned mini mart, store, restaurant, whatnot. I'm going to turn the camera off here, but so far the biggest impression, the engine is squirt fast fun. It's playful, and suspension is good as I expected, but the real surprise is the effectiveness of the front brake and how good it is under trail braking. So I hope that helps you in making your purchasing decision.